Hello everybody, I'd like to welcome you back. Firstly, I'd just like to say that I've got nearly 300 podcasts on this particular channel. And if you want to go back and have a look, go to playlists on the top of the page and press playlist and you'll see all the lists. Because I think that there's a lot that I've done maybe year and a half ago. I can't remember exactly how long, probably over a year. And there'll be tons of them there that you might have missed out if you joined earlier or if you found me just recently, to have a look at those. In today's podcast, I want to talk about attachments, and I'm talking about negative attachments. This isn't a field that I'm particularly comfortable with. Actually, I like the light and the lie, love and all those things. But I wanted to talk to you about it because it is a real thing, and I have actually done some work on it just recently. What happens is, if you have a lot of negativity in your aura or things have gone wrong for you a lot, you've got maybe a lot of abuse or trauma, you'll have this energy in your aura which wasn't necessarily your fault that you're carrying. And unfortunately, the more negative you get and the more depressed you get and despair, there can be a thing called attachments, and these are spiritual attachments to you, which sort of feed off that negativity and are also attracted to it. So just as you can be attracted to someone's got a great laugh and their energy's great, so you can also be attracted, if you're negative, to somebody who's also negative. It works in the human world, but it actually works in the spiritual world. And I found that these negative attachments, and you can call them spiritual, you can call them just energy. I don't have a clear understanding, I'm going to be honest about this, but I know that they occur. They can actually change your life and stop you from moving forward because you're surrounded by negativity. I worked on a couple of people just recently who I just had a feeling might have had negative attachments or have attachments to them, and yes, they did. And you can clear it from yourself, but you can also clear it from others. It's not dissimilar to the idea of the curses. It's like an energetic thing that comes from the outside toward you, and you can't even know perhaps you're being affected. The way I released them was first I recognised it, so I used my pendulum and asked my pendulum, did they have any attachments? And I got yes or no. If I got yes, then I released them using my pendulum, the attachment from them. And then I did this meditation. That's really what I want to talk to you about. So the meditation I did was I went in the love and light place and put all my angels around me and asked for guidance. And then I released the attachments and sent them to the light, the attachments. And then the most important thing I think I did was I filled that person's energy field with love and light. And then I saw them standing there, that person, after I'd released the attachment. And then I put an angel on every corner, like saw them like they were in a square. And then I put an angel in each corner to give them protection so that the energy doesn't come back and attach to them. What I noticed was exactly the next day after I did it, the person I spoke to then, and I saw them, their energy was completely different, and they were talking about some new directions, some new things that they were doing and how they were going to do it and could start again. And then what you do is you just go back in and check maybe a week or two and see if you can ask with your pendulum, or you maybe use your psychic eye and see if there's any attachments. Everyone does it differently. I use my pendulum quite a lot and my psychic feeling, my intuition. And some people actually see and other people actually pick up. They will hear the voice, the guides telling them. And you can ask your guides to help and ask their guides to help as well, to block any more negative attachments coming toward them and sticking to them. I found that positive people tend not to have these attachments as much, even though I still believe you can, but negative people will be the ones who mostly have them because all their negativity sort of draws this kind of energy towards them. This is not an area that I feel particularly skilled in. I don't really work in this area very much, but it came to me as something I needed to do for a couple of people, and I've done it. And I think the most important thing about this work is that it stops people from moving ahead. They stay in that negative space. And with the attachments, it almost like holds them to that place. They can't move ahead. So if you think of anyone you know who's super negative, very depressed, very down, and can't move on, just tune in and ask Spirit if they have negative attachments, and then you can do the work on them. And you can also send healing by putting your hands facing them. You can do it if the person is open, you can do the healing on them. But if they're not really into this work, then you just send the healing absently. Negativity stops a lot of things, and it almost crushes dreams, and it freezes the energy, so you can't move on. It's paralyzing. And it's not people's fault that they have a lot of negative energy sometimes. It can be generational, that they picked it up as their family had it, but it can also be their own stuff as well. And you might want to do a little bit of generational healing on that to let go of any negativity from the father and the mother's side. Attachments are interesting. Some people can see them around people, like a dark, hazy shapes around people. They see them like that. Other people just know. And I think that you don't always have them, it's that you can have them in certain parts of your life. And I think that the more people get towards wanting to commit suicide and feeling it's all not worth it and they want to go, the more attachments they can attract. Because we do attract what we are. That's actually very, very honest opinion of what really happens out there. So if you've got a lot of positive light and a lot of love in you, and you keep having hope and faith, you're less likely to attract negative entities or negative attachments. You might know some people that you would like to send healing to with this, to help them along their way, because once you block them out, the negativity and the negative attachments particularly, once you block those out, you'll find it be very, very different. If your feeling around them will be different too. You'll feel it, because remember, if they're coming to have coffee with you and they're bringing their negative attachments, they're coming to coffee as well. So any time you spend with them, you're spending with negative attachments. I'm actually not sure of this, but my feeling is too that if there have been negative people in your family, and maybe even towards maybe not very nice people and evil in your family grouping, and they've died, that they can also negatively attach to anyone who's still alive. And then they can actually stop things happening in the family that are positive. So I want you to have a look at that one as well. It's not a subject we really like to talk about, is it? But if you had a horrible dad and he died and he was rather evil, when he's dead, he can still come and attach to you or your kids. This is a very true thing, especially if they had a relationship that was a bit different when they were on Earth and they were a little bit connected there, or quite connected. And I feel that abusers can do that, and so can sociopaths and psychopaths. When they cross, they can still have that ability, because many of these people are very psychic. Don't underestimate them. As much as you're working in the light, they can be working actually in the dark. Therefore, keep it in mind that some of these attachments could actually be from people who've actually died and are still trying to attach down here. We don't want that. It's not good for us, but it's also not good for them, because they're not moving on and they're not working in good light. If you think you've got attachments, you can do a meditation where you just ask your guides to let the attachment go and tell them to go, send them to the light, then put yourself in a big dome of light and put your angels or guardians or guides, however you like to call them, around to protect you. And that way you'll actually not have so much negativity around you as well. And you should feel lighter, because negative energy is quite heavy and it's kind of sticky and paralysing, as I said before. But positive energy is the opposite. Positive energy is very freeing and it moves. There's a little movement, and it'll help your life move. I would like to have been more clear in this podcast, but it's an area I know and I've sort of gone in and dabbled a bit, but it's not an area that I would say I'm an expert in any way on it. I'm just telling you what I've picked up, and I wouldn't mind if you send me a few comments if you've picked up things too, because I think everyone has different experiences, and this hasn't been particularly an experience in my life. However, you can still help other people, and you will probably recognise it more. I noticed that when people have very severe depression and very severe addictions, they're more likely to have attachments. So that might be somewhere you might like to have a look at with some of the people that you know. I don't know what, the addiction seems to make you more vulnerable to attachments. And anyone who's trying to kill themselves, they possibly have attachments too, because they're being swayed, because they're sending out, the beeper they're sending out is so negative when they're very unhappy like that, that these attachments, these energy can come towards them and they can attract that negative energy. You might like to have a look at this. I think it's an area people don't talk about much, but I think it's a very strong area. I checked and I found 3 people that I just knew in my little group who had them, and I worked on 2. One's not, I didn't feel she wanted it. You work on her, and you've got to respect that too. If you get a feeling that they don't want you to go there, that's okay. But I noticed a week later I went and checked those 2 people, and there were no attachments. And I just reinforced their dome of light and the little angels around them to protect them from it coming back in. I think when you're very vulnerable and you've had a very hard time and things have been really tough, you're more likely to fall victim to this. But you wouldn't even notice it because you're in such a bad state. I'm hoping you have a good week. The world's a bit of a mess right now, isn't it? We just have to send lots of light to various places and hope these leaders just come to their senses, really, and stop having wars. I think we're supposed to be past having wars. Okay, sending you lots of love and lots of light.